sun going down? Are we gonna die? Why are you saying I'm sorry?
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Lindsay, the Housewife Historian, and today we're talking Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I previously had a live going and my internet went down, my whole live crashed, and I apologize. So this is going to be a remake of my live from earlier, talking about Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Kyle Richards, and allegedly what is transpired over the last year to 9 months that has us literally talking about a 27-year marriage, people separating after 27 years. That seems crazy. So we have to talk a little bit. I have a whole new theory, and it kind of came to me yesterday, and it really makes a lot of sense if I explain it to you guys. I want to know what your thoughts are. But before we do all that, guys, make sure that you subscribe to my channel, put your notifications on. It's super important because it makes a huge difference with knowing what's going on, because I give you guys all of my tea through my YouTube first before I take it to any other platforms. So that way you get alerts when I, sporadically come on with a live that has, hot tea. So that's why it's important to subscribe and turn the notifications on. And hitting the like button is a great free way to help get my channel out to other people. So of course, everything in this video is alleged. Let's talk a little bit about Kyle Richards. If you are not up to speed, her and her husband of 27 years announced a separation on July 3rd. First of all, the timing is beyond impeccable that it would be announced the day before the 4th of July. There's been a lot of rumors. Kyle did come out and make a statement, which is something we have never seen her do. She's always been very protective over her marriage. She's always been very, everything is amazing, wonderful life, right? And so it's been a little bit strange to see her coming out, making a statement on Instagram and basically stating that this has been the worst year of their marriage, that it's been like a terrible last 9 months of their marriage. And then, of course, they asked for some privacy at this time, and she asked that people not run salacious narratives. Um, this isn't a narrative. This is going to be my opinion, but we're going to talk about some of the facts that have me thinking this way. And one of those, we're going to start with a major issue that I don't think that we all are taking into account. And I had to think about this yesterday. I colored my hair, guys. Never color your hair before vacation. Um, Anyways, I was thinking about Kyle and Mauricio and what their marriage is like, right? Because Kyle is embarking on this journey where she's decided to quit drinking. So we can speculate on why or what happened that would make Kyle, who to all of us has portrayed that she is a social drinker. She is a good time gal at the parties, but never given us the implication that there's ever been a problem or that she's ever felt like she might have a problem with alcohol. We've seen her sister Kim suffer greatly from addiction and alcoholism, and we've seen Kyle kind of they get into that fight in the limo back in the early seasons, and Kyle she calls her an alcoholic, and we know that a lot of times people addiction runs in people's family, and genetics can play a part and make you pre-deficit to these sort of things. So if we factor that in and we look at Kyle, and we do know that she was drinking a little bit more than usual last season, she did seem to be like a single woman dancing around having a great time. The last 9 months, there's been no mushy mushy on Instagram, like for anniversaries and holidays, like we typically see from Kyle and Mauricio, even with their anniversary coming around in January. And again, guys, it's like they know that bloggers and investigators, everyone's watching Instagram and these sorts of things. Um, and it's always sort of been like that, but they've always kept up the facade. And even in the statement, it made it seem like they had been separated and living together and under the same roof for quite some time. And that really leaves a lot of people, a lot of, it up to speculation on when the issues actually started and when and how long Kyle and Mauricio have actually been living totally different lives. Now, again, if we go back and look at Kyle embarking on this new journey of she quit drinking, um let's also encounter the fact that we know Kyle has a lot of anxiety, right? She tells us she has a lot of anxiety. We see it every time they fly. She's even admitted and said that she takes an anxiety medication for her anxiety, or she would be like crippled with it. And so, is it like out of the realm to think that Kyle possibly was self diagnosing and like self-treating her anxiety with the alcohol? If you think about it, guys, that all of the events, Bravo was bringing alcohol, alcohol, alcohol. We've seen the Real Housewives of New York City, Sonia Morgan, and they get drunk. Look at Luann. They, falling into bushes. It's hee hee ha ha. Everything's funny and fun and games until it's not fun and games, right? We know that when they film for 10 hours, they start serving alcohol right away. We've seen Bronwyn Burke get sober on the Real Housewives of Orange County. That was pretty raw and real, in my opinion. We see Gina from the Real Housewives of Orange County. We know that she had a DUI, and the courts were giving her a smackdown on her drinking, and she just recently actually quit drinking altogether. And then also there was Luann, and she got in trouble, and she had to quit drinking. And it's not uncommon to think some of these women could suffer from, maybe having some issues with alcohol. It seems to be that way. Even Luann would made a fake like alcohol that was like a sparkling something that she would pour into a wine glass and carry around at parties because she felt like she was more sophisticated with a glass of wine in her hand. We've seen Dorinda. We've seen Dorinda. Need we say anymore, right? I mean, if you've watched The Real Housewives in New York City and seen Dorinda, then I'd need not say anymore. And maybe Kyle was trying to prevent herself from taking it to the next level and it resulting in something like along those lines. Um, I think that it's very possible that something happened and she decided to quit drinking. Now, when she decided to quit drinking, it wasn't like she just quit drinking and she never thought about it again. It seems to me that if Morgan is also in recovery from alcohol and Kyle has not drank at all in 9 months, which number one shows us she's keeping track of her sobriety date and when her last drink was, because she knows exactly how long and what the timeline is since her last drink. It means that she understands that she may or may not have an allergy to alcohol that causes her to not drink like the normal person and not be able to have one glass, or if one is good, two is better, and three, and so on and so forth. So people who are alcoholics can't even take a sip of alcohol most of the time and in most AA programs. And so if we are led to believe that Morgan is in recovery, Morgan, guys, let me get you up to speed. You guys know about Morgan. She's the country music singer. She's a very lovely girl, very beautiful girl. She seems very eccentric, very creative. She has tattoos. She's a country music singer. She has an ex-girlfriend that's been on the tickety talk. And the ex-girlfriend has been on the tickety talk crying over Morgan. She's been crying a lot over Morgan. And she posted them all for all of us to see. And I give kudos to whomever put together the fact that this was Morgan Wade's ex-girlfriend. Seriously, thank you. I don't know who you are, but thank you. Because it solidifies what a lot of us are thinking, and that is that it's possible there is some sort of a relationship going on between the two of them. And even though they are very much the unlikely pair, alcohol and addiction is not prejudiced. Okay? It will hit anyone, any denomination, any race, any gender, it doesn't care. Okay? So if Kyle wanted to quit drinking and it was like something she decided to do, then obviously what's the obvious, right, guys? Like just like if you were to like quit smoking or to quit drinking even coffee, say, maybe not coffee, but something that she's not drinking, she can't be around alcohol, especially when she's newly sober. newly sober people, that's when it's the hardest. They say like the newcomer is the most important person because of the fact that they have it the hardest. Because of the obsession. So it does seem like the longer that you're sober, the easier that it gets. Not that you don't have good days or bad days, but the newcomer again is the most important person. So Kyle's, considering the fact that she must have reached out to somebody for help and they gave her Morgan's phone number. It's likely that Morgan is in some sort of a recovery program. She doesn't drink at all. She, I think, is pretty open that she's like in recovery. Kyle is saying it without saying it. So people who don't know much about AA or alcoholism doesn't pick up necessarily on it because of the way that she words it. But for the rest of us that maybe know a little bit about the program, or I think a lot of us have had somebody that's been touched by alcohol or drug addiction. Um, and so the way that she is talking about it and the way that she's carrying herself, it very much seems like someone that's like, I can't drink anymore. Like I can't drink because I can't just have one anymore. And my life was becoming unmanageable. And in all due circumstances, in a perfect situation, we would think that if our partner has a problem and and take accountability for it and they're ready to change that, okay, that we're going to do everything we can to support them, right? Of course we are. We're going to do Kyle, you quit drinking? Oh, yeah, Mauricio, he loves you. He's going to support you, honey. Whatever you want to do, Kyle, whatever you want to do until it affects him. Until it's, you know what, Mauricio, I'm not comfortable with us having a full bar, downstairs in the kitchen because when I'm home alone by myself, I know I could drink and no one would even know. And it tempts me, right? Okay, we'll get rid of the bottles, no problem, no problem. But what about, what Mauricio comes home and pours himself every night and rolls himself every night, right? He's a smoker, he's a drinker. She's probably like, you know, I, when we go out to eat with our couple friends, I don't want to be the only one not drinking because then I have to explain to people why I'm not drinking, right? So right there is already going to make her uncomfortable, and that's going to put a stick in their social life and their social engagements. Okay, let me take that even a step further. Honey, I don't want you to drink when you're around me. When we go out to eat, when you order a margarita, it actually triggers me to want to order margarita. And I know that you shouldn't, Mauricio, you shouldn't be punished by not having to drink because I have a problem. However, it puts my sobriety in danger being around you drinking because I'm just not strong enough yet. So can you not drink? Do you think Mauricio had no problem with that? Do you think he was perfectly content giving up his evening martinis? I doubt it. And what about their social life? Again, social engagements. We know that the one thing Mauricio and Kyle have given us, that is a appearance, that is a they show up together hand in hand, they work the room, they are both working towards the same thing and they're able to have a partnership, if that makes sense. Um, and so I think that they both Kyle's the good time girl. Kyle is the good time girl. The women have been saying that about Camille for years, not about Camille, about Kyle for years. Camille has said it, all of them. They say Kyle's like the funniest person in the room. When you go to a baby shower or whatever event, if you see Kyle Richards, you want to sit next to her because she's so funny and she's such a good time. But here's the thing, she probably has to drink to be like that. She probably has to drink to take the edge off. She has to drink to have a good time. She has to drink when she's sad, and she's just using alcohol as a coping mechanism. So here comes Morgan, her first real support person that knows a little bit about sobriety and the act of having a problem and not wanting to drink anymore, but still wanting to drink, if that makes sense. Um, so every situation, if you think about it, if Kyle's saying that the last 9 months or the last 10 months have been the worst ever in their marriage, and those are the 10 months of their marriage that Kyle did stop drinking, and maybe the only time that she quit drinking, other than the times when she was pregnant, right? For 9 months. Not even maybe she, who knows when she found out or what her pregnancies were like. And it's a little bit different when you know that you're just pushing through the 9 months, and after that you'll be able to drink every day happily, however long you want. Um, it's different. And now we're seeing her taking up sobriety as a choice. And she is probably looking at Mauricio to be making some changes in his life that he's not ready to make, that he doesn't feel like he should have to make. Um, Again, when they go out to dinner and they go places and they go to social events, and sit down dinners and such, I'm sure that it is an uncomfortable situation for Kyle because it's a high anxiety situation, right? Because yes, though some people may be very social, like I can be very social, but I have to prep myself for it. Like don't hit me without, like, I need to know in advance literally because I have to prepare myself. I know that sounds crazy, but I do. And then afterwards, exhausted, exhausted. Like I'm social, I'm happy, I like to have a good time, I like to hang out, but I have to mentally prepare myself, and then I also have to unwind, and it drains a lot for me because I'm super empathetic as well. But the anxiety of it as well, I think, is what I realized why I needed the time prior to the event because of my anxiety of just like throwing myself in there. Um, and so to help with the anxiety, if I know ahead of time, my brain can process it better and I feel less anxious about it. But Kyle having to go into rooms where she has to work the room, she has to be funny no matter what. She has to be Kyle Richards. She has to keep executive producers happy. She has to keep everyone laughing. The set, like, she's doing a lot. And to stop drinking in the midst of that is pretty courageous, but it's not going to happen and be successful unless if she has a really great support. And if your husband drinks a lot, that's not going to be attractive to you anymore, right? Because like nothing is worse than when like you're a drunk and then you get sober and you see what drunk people are like and you're like, "Oh my God, was I like that?" And that might be kind of what Kyle's going through. I'm not trying to knock Mauricio. I think that Mauricio is like, whatever the happened in their years prior to their relationship, we can speculate a lot on that, and I'm sure that everything wasn't good. However, their finances have stayed good, the business has been good, the agency has been good. Things have been good financially between the two for a long time. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that they have to stay married and keep up the facade anymore. And if Kyle was reaching out and looking for support from her husband, and he was picking the alcohol over his wife, essentially, um, then I think that would push her more into Morgan, who understands Kyle's thinking, understands why Kyle doesn't want alcohol in the house, understands why Kyle wants Mauricio to quit drinking around her or not order drinks when they go out to dinner or not have bottles of wine at the dinner table, whatever the case may be, whatever her own triggers might be. If she's going to him and asking him to make changes and he's not making them, that's going to drive her into Morgan Wade's arms because already Morgan has an understanding of Kyle that Kyle has never had before. Kyle's sort of having an epiphany, okay? Because she's really realizing what things are. And if you guys see, we know that Kim Richards deals with addiction. We know that she suffered with alcoholism and, she was a child star, and we don't know what she may or may not have endured on the sets or with producers. We don't know because of how much she was pretty much in the 60s and 70s. Like they went and they worked on the set and their parents had to leave. They didn't want the parents there really. And I think that her mom was sick and suffering as well. And we know that she was at the bar a lot. She had her own booth at the Beverly Hills Hotel. So if Big Kathy is an alcoholic and we have Kim showing, that she's using alcohol to deal with her things, and we've heard all about Kathy and Rick and their lifestyle, it can't be too crazy to think that Kyle has come to a point in her 51 years in life and realize she might have a problem with alcohol and she needs to quit drinking. And so Morgan has now come along with all of this great information on things that she has freshly and newly learned in the last year through her own struggle. And so the way that a lot of time addicts and alcoholics will learn is they relate to each other too. And so Morgan probably had a lot of great insight and information and could relate to Kyle's struggle in the industry and not drinking and wanting to perform without drinking. Morgan knows what that's like because she's been doing it now for a year. So she's teaching Kyle the ins and outs of the tools that have helped her to remain sober while performing and sober when the pressure is on. And every time Kyle looked to Mauricio for some of that validation, or as in um empathy or understanding, she's not getting it. Like, her and him are not aligning, and they can't really align. Maybe Kyle is taking part. She's like California sober, and maybe she has taken part in like the recreational TH things that are available in California and all over the United States. I mean, it's very possible. If so, I would actually encourage her to stay that route, that natural, more natural route versus the toxic alcohol. But if so, that's fine. Maybe she's managing her anxiety that way, right? Nobody's here to judge her. But I think, again, like, we see a little bit of a difference when it's actual straight alcohol. I like to remind you guys and take you back in time, but let's go back to a couple of years ago when Dorito, no offense, you guys know if you watch my channel, I call Dorito. It's a term of endearment because Doritos are delicious. Dorito and PK and Kyle and Mauricio were pretty much separateless. They were on vacations together. They were in Mexico together with the kids, but they were also drinking and have a good old time. And they would be posting it on their Instagram, and they would be getting a little crazy and a little drunk. Not always out and about. We're talking like in Kyle's home, like not during filming at all. And like, you would have thought they were the bestest of friends, right? Like, Dorito even commented on Dana Wilkie's post a year ago that like her kids call them Auntie Kyle and Uncle Mauricio. Allegedly there was talks between PK and Mauricio about a deal in a show, and we know that in the end, PK ended up with a show overseas, and Mauricio ended up on Buying Beverly Hills on Netflix. And they really haven't spoken much since. But it's an interesting dynamic that Kyle and Mauricio have become very good friends with, like, these couples, and everything's good for a couple of years or a couple of months, and then you don't see them be good friends anymore, right? And if you remember, Dory and PK like to have a good time, right? We remember what Lisa Renna said was going on at one of Dorit's parties. Why did she say that? Why are people doing Coca-Cola in your bathroom? Because after dinner, everyone got up from the table and went into the bathrooms, except for Lisa Renna and a gentleman who is known to be like the dealer to the stars. And he's also been seen out and about with Kathy many a times. He runs in the circle of Faye Resnick and Kathy Hilton and all the I don't want to say, I'm not saying old timers. I'm saying like the legends, the big names that uh that have been in that town forever. And so allegedly he has always been kind of the dealer to the stars. And that was another reason that Lisa Renna associated everyone doing Coca-Cola, because of the fact that he was there and how everyone got up from the table and went to the bathroom at the same time after they were done eating, except for her and the dealer. Don't get high on your own supply, right? Um, so I don't know. I don't know how much Dory and PK get down. I'm sure that they, it's right, it's very California. It's very nonchalant out there. It's very whatever. It's always like they think that they're like high class um people that do it. So it's okay. It's not as bad, I guess. but it makes it interesting to think about what kind of partying dynamic really goes on behind the scenes. We know that on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, production is posting or like pushing alcohol on them all day, all night. Um, but when the cameras go down, what's really going on? That's again not the first time we've heard that. If you guys remember, it was alleged that when Luann and the ladies were, I think they were on a cruise. I don't think they were on a cruise filming, but they were somewhere traveling over abroad and allegedly, got a hold of some party supply, some Coca-Cola, and were, doing it after the cameras were down. So we don't know what their partying life is like. That's not even touching the pharmaceutical end of it because I'm sure these people can go to the doctor and basically get anything that they want whenever they want, i.e. Ozempic. They have, great connections and people that are more than willing to help them out with whatever it is that they may need. And we also know that Kyle does take a well, I don't want to say for sure that it's a benzodiazepine, but it is a anti-anxiety medication that she takes. And we know that there are two things that do not mix well together. They do not mix well together at all, and that is a benzodiazepine and alcohol. It's a very, very, very dangerous and bad mixture. And it's possible that she could have been just having a couple of drinks and even maybe it could have been causing her to black out, again, it might not even be that she was a raging, she was drinking too much. It could just be that she's on a medication that she can't drink at all on, or if she does, she has two drinks and she's like out with the lights off, and nobody needs to be blacking out when they're drinking. That's a very red, red, red flag. And I also think that if we are real about it, we've really seen Teddy sort of take a little bit of a step back in Kyle's life as well because of the fact that, again, I think that Mauricio and Kyle and Teddy and her man, what is his name? Edwin, um, they all hung out as a foursome because they all like to do the same thing, which was drink, have a good time. We know that when we would see Teddy and Kyle together hanging out, even with the kids, they had margaritas in their hands. They were by the pool. They were drinking, yada, yada, yada. When we see them in Colorado, everyone has drinks in their hands. So it's not, it's just not too crazy to think that if she said, I can't drink anymore, I have a problem with alcohol, and I want my husband to support me, and that looks like A, B, C, and D, and he couldn't do those things, respect those boundaries, get rid of the alcohol in the house, or not, whatever. We don't know what Mauricio's habits could be, but it does look like it seems like he likes to have a good, good, good time too. But whatever it is that Kyle needed, it's likely that he didn't give it because one, he might have his own sickness and suffering and relationship and allergy to alcohol that he has to process. And I think that it's very hard for people to change even for the good of themselves, for their children, right? So alcohol and drugs is like the only thing in the world that numbs a mother's motherly instinct, which is the most strongest and important thing that a woman is born with. And drugs literally numb that. And so it's possible that she could think he has a problem and he doesn't. And therefore that snowballs into a sensitive subject. And that's why she gets upset if they go out and he drinks at all, because she thinks he drinks too much and he doesn't know when to stop. And then he embarrasses her, and that's a trigger for her. So I think that there's a little bit more to the story than what we're really getting. And every time Mauricio wasn't able to even respect the boundaries of her not wanting to drink anymore, um, probably pushed her into the hands of Morgan Wade. Arms, not hands. I'm sorry, the arms of Morgan Wade. Yeah, I think that's what happened. Because again, nobody's going to understand an alcoholic's thinking but another alcoholic. Okay? Because all day long we have people that look at alcoholics and people in recovery or using thinking like, I don't get it, I don't understand, what did I do, don't they love me, then that's the family, that's the other things that you hear, the family thinks it's their fault, right? And that's why Al-Anon is such a great, great, great thing. And I would really encourage any of you, if you have someone in your family that they're, that is sick or suffering, and their um, choices affected you, Al-Anon is a great place to be. And so I think that you can always go back and find contacts, and they have local meetings. If you Google it, you can find regular AA meetings, and you can find regular Al-Anon meetings in your area with the times. And yeah, you can basically do that, and it doesn't cost anything. You can go online. It's free. Look up AA in your area. Look up Al-Anon in your area. I just was with a client yesterday. We were at an AA meeting, and one of the subjects was about like women who were like freshly new in recovery, and like their emotions were so all over the place, but they had children and they felt bad that they weren't able to like love their children the way they would have liked to. But when they would come to a meeting, the other people of AA that had a lot of time, that had the patience, that had the love to give, would sit with their son and do his homework or play games with him or color with him during the meeting, whatever the case may be. And so they were able to sort of um, give her son what she couldn't give him. And that, due to her recovery. And then once she had a little bit more time, as the stronger she got, the more she was able to give to her children. And pretty soon, she was able to be mom again. But the people in AA, a lot of the time, they really have great hearts and they want to help and they have been through it themselves. And so, AA is a great place for anyone that's sick or suffering or feels like they, think that they could or could not have an issue with alcohol or drugs. It is, you don't have to, you can just show up. That's it. That's all you have to do is show up. And it's the same with Al Anon. So I would really like to see them maybe talk to Kim. I think that it's possible they brought Kim back on this season to be sort of a, what is the word I'm looking for? A support person for Kyle. So hypothetically, say Kyle's going to make this part of her storyline that she decided she had a problem with alcohol. She's going to slow down. And she brings Kim around to give her the ropes on how to stay sober in 2023. I I wonder if Kim introduced Morgan to Kyle. Definitely, definitely somebody in the program absolutely did. That's what triggered her to listen to Morgan's album, her whole drive to the North Pole to film the North Pole video. I don't think she drove to the North Pole. She was driving to film the North Pole Christmas video. So I don't know what you guys think about this. I know that sometimes it's hard for people that don't, again, have that same mentality of somebody that can't stop drinking. So it's hard to understand. But I promise you that I've heard it a million times from a million different people. And if you have a couple and they do something together like that they enjoy, like the drinking and the partying, and then one of them cleans up their act. If the other one doesn't, it doesn't usually work out because even when the temptation is going to be gone for Kyle, um, she's not going to be attracted to alcohol and anyone that's intoxicated by alcohol again. She's not going to want to smell it on his breath. She's not going to want to kiss him. She's not going to want to be around him when he's acting goofy because he's, drunk. That's not going to be a turn on. And I think, again, that's what's given her the drive, if you will, to have a relationship with Morgan. And guys, in my live yesterday, I was talking about Kenya Moore and how, if you guys are watching Real Housewives of Atlanta at the beginning of the season, she was talking about her boo thing and how he like had awoken things in her she didn't even know needed awakened. And I really feel like in this sort of situation, maybe that's what happened with Kyle. Maybe Morgan came along. I'm looking for my chapstick, guys. Maybe Morgan came along and rocked Kyle's world. If Morgan was her AA sponsor, um, I want to give Zach credit for this too, because he was the one that read a YouTuber's comment that said, "What if Morgan is the AA sponsor?" And I really love this theory because of the fact that I think that's a really plausible option that she could be. her AA sponsor, like major support person. Now, hypothetically, if she was the AA sponsor, it would be conventional to think that they would be going through the 12 steps of AA. Kyle would need to start the 12 steps with her sponsor. And so the 12 steps comes to the fourth and fifth, sixth steps. There's a lot of sharing. There's a step that's all about basically ridding yourself of the things that you've done, like coming out and speaking them to somebody, and then making amends to the people that you can. Um, and it can be really hard for people. And you can be sharing a lot of your life and a lot of your trauma and a lot about your family. And they also, in return, oh my gosh, my mom was an alcoholic too. That's so crazy. I can't, oh my gosh, you so and so, oh my gosh, that happened to me too. Like, that's what ends up happening in AA, a lot of the same similar experiences. And that results in connections, but it can also result in codependency. And I think in Kyle's situation, she wasn't getting it at home and she needed the support to stay sober. And that's what really had her reaching out, looking for emotional support elsewhere. Once she was able to trust Morgan, I think she shared and indulged in a lot of things that had been going on for a very long time. And because she was able to take her mask off and be real with Morgan, I think that bonded them. That like caused that, I don't know if you want to call it a trauma bond or not, but it definitely bonded them so seriously because it does give off very couple-ish vibes, but it also gives off sponsor turned couple-ish vibes, if you know what I'm saying. But anyway, guys, make sure that you hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, turn your notifications on. We're going to talk more about this on another day, but comment, let me know what your thoughts are. Hit that like button and make sure you subscribe and we'll talk.